Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Glories to Prabhupada. You're muted at the moment.
Thank you.
Oh.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, Maharaj, we can hear you.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're studying Bhakti Vaibhava. This is Canto 4 and we're on chapter 21 today. Instructions by Maharaj Prithu. Before we go on to chapter 21, let us just quickly review what happened yesterday when we studied Lord Vishnu's appearance in the sacrificial arena of Maharaj Prithu. Right? Lord Vishnu appeared after, well, Lord Brahma had come, first of all, to encourage Maharaj Prithu to give up performing the horse sacrifice. He wanted to do his 100th horse sacrifice, and Indra was playing havoc by stealing away the horse. And so Maharaj Prithu was a little bit angered that it was not happening, that he was not able to complete the 100th sacrifice. But anyway, first of all, Lord Brahma came and told him to give up that attachment to performing the yajna. And then Lord Vishnu came there. After some time, he came along with Indra himself. And Lord Vishnu brought Indra there. And he said, Indra wants you to forgive him. And we heard how forgiveness is an important quality which devotees certainly want to cultivate. Of course, it's a Brahminical quality, but we're trying to become Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas are expected to be more than Brahmanas. So we should have these qualities. This quality of forgiveness is very important. So maybe somebody could just tell me something about Lord Vishnu's instructions to Prithu Maharaj. I mentioned about forgiveness. Was there any other instruction which Lord Vishnu had put to Maharaj Prithu? Anyone?
Sorry, I'm driving, so I am not able to switch on my video, Maharaj. We learned about how Lord Vishnu instructed Prithu Maharaj about not worrying about the externalities in terms of what in terms of how the body is different and how we should not be paying too much of emphasis or attention, or how Prithu Maharaj should not be worrying too much about the external body situation. That was one thing that we discussed. And the other thing was in terms of the instructions that Lord Vishnu provided to Prithu Maharaj in terms of what kind of an able administrator he should be, and that some directions that he gave in terms of executing his duty as the king of the land.
Oh, yes. Very good. Yes. Do you think we could apply any of these kind of instructions in our own Krishna conscious circles? Do you think any of these particular instructions would be relevant to us in our Krishna conscious life?
Maharaj, so even in our practice of Krishna consciousness, where we take positions of responsibility in or being a yatra leader, some of these principles are things that we can really implement.
Yes. Yes, go ahead, Prabhu. Yes, certainly as devotees, especially those of you who are in leadership roles, or just the fact that you're senior devotees, senior Vaishnavas, you have a very important role to play. And the importance, remember, what particularly inspired Lord Vishnu was the behavior of Maharaj Prithu, that he was very charmed, very impressed with the good behavior which Maharaj Prithu was showing. And that's very important for us as devotees, that we're representing Srila Prabhupada, we're representing the Krishna consciousness movement. I remember on one occasion, there was a young couple, they had become devotees not very long, they were new devotees, but anyway, they were living next door to another man, and the man who was living next door to them, he said, you know, every night I hear this couple arguing and yelling and fighting with each other. He said, I thought they were devotees. Aren't you devotees supposed to have a peaceful lifestyle? Why are they always arguing and quarreling with each other? So that was an interesting example. That, you know, their behavior was not really up to the mark, what people expect from Krishna conscious devotees. So people do have that expectation. They expect the devotees to be very good, to show good examples in their behavior. And certainly Maharaj Prithu, of course, he's a Shakti Avesha avatar. He was very exemplary. His behavior was without fault, without any blemish. Okay. Any other comments about that chapter? We heard after Lord Vishnu gave instructions, and Prithu Maharaj is giving some advice, speaking about his to his citizens, encouraging them also. Yes? Anybody like to tell us anything else happened in that chapter?
He was saying, Prithu Maharaj said something, he gave 4 instructions. He was saying that, you know, how we should treat those who are higher, lower, and equal to us. You know, how we should treat them all individually. And he was saying how we should try and be equiposed, whether there's happiness or distress, and how we should control our mind and senses and protect the citizens. And he was saying that actually the importance of why a king should protect his citizens is because if he protects them, he gets 1/6 of their piety. If he doesn't, then the citizens take his piety, and he will suffer for the sins that they do.
Yes, very good. Yeah. Yeah, if he is not guiding the citizens correctly, if he allows them to go on with their sinful life, then he will also take the reactions for their sins. There was a case, in Srila Prabhupada's time, I think it was, there was one man, he had become elected the president of the USA, and he was a cattle rancher. and he was keeping a big herd, a massive herd of cows. But what happened was when he was the president, at that time the Vietnam War was raging. And the American armies were going there in Vietnam, and they were fighting, and there were so many people, so many soldiers injured and maimed and killed. And that was so like a relation to what the man was doing, because he was the president of the country, and he was keeping cows. His livelihood was killing cows. He was a cattle farmer. And the cows were being sent for slaughter. So he was sending his mothers in the form of cows for slaughter. So every day his children, his sons in the army, they were being killed. They were being slaughtered on the battlefield in the war in Vietnam. It's like a karmic reaction for his activities. Okay. Anything else? Anyone? Otherwise, we'll go on to chapter 21 to hear the instructions by Maharaj Prithu. So first of all, the chapter begins, we hear about the nature of the city where Maharaj Prithu was living. How it's very beautifully decorated, it's very opulent. And Srila Prabhupada comments that actually real opulence is based on nature's gifts. And we see some of the countries in the world which may not be so economically prosperous, but in terms of nature's gifts, they're very opulent. I had the opportunity some years ago. I was in the Philippines and I was working under Tamal Krishna Goswami, and he came there. He was giving initiation in the Philippines, and he remarked how beautiful the scene was there. In this, it was in the city of Cebu, a small city there, and we had a small, not a big temple, quite a few young devotees, and they decorated everything with all flowers which they collected. They didn't really purchase them from the market. They could just go and pick them from the trees which were which were around, just like champaka flowers and things like that, frangipani, different flowers, marigolds. You could go around and just pick flowers. You didn't have to go to the market to purchase them. And similarly, there was a lot of fruits also easily available. And there were also, in the sea there's a lot of coral. And so opulence was there in the form of nature's gifts. Although the country itself wasn't very industrialized with big factories and things, but it had nature's gifts, and that is actually the real opulence of the world. So this was seen in the case of Maharaj Prithu coming to the city. Opulence, it states here, opulence immediately changes the condition of the mind, and the entire atmosphere becomes spiritualized. King Prithu's capital was decorated with such highly opulent decorations. Yeah, everyone's mind was spiritualized because the gifts were natural. And how could we decorate things today? Sometimes in the USA they will have a ticker tape reception for some big man. I remember, maybe it was the astronauts when they supposed to have gone to the moon, or when they get some big famous person, they want to honor him. they will just drop pieces of paper from the buildings on top of him. So just paper. But in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we read about flowers coming from the sky, from the heavenly planets. The demigods shower flowers. So we never get that today. You get the perverted reflection. They throw pieces of paper on top of people. All right, so we're given the description, the different things which are auspicious, grains and minerals, lamps. Everywhere was decorated, and there were betel nuts and banana trees. All these combined to look very attractive. And then we hear about entering the gate of the city. The different citizens are there, and they've come to receive him with auspicious items. So auspicious items are things like flowers and yogurt and lamps. And then it's mentioned also young unmarried girls. Unmarried girls means they haven't been touched by any man. They're pure, and they've also come to honor the king. So Prabhupada explains how in Hindu society, the conservative families, they will protect their daughters. They will not allow them to be taken advantage of by unscrupulous men. They will arrange for their marriage. And when women are protected, then this is an auspicious source of energy to man. So we can see the situation today, how things have changed, how things have deteriorated. So Maharaj Prithu enters into the city, and conch shells are blown, and drums are beaten, priests are chanting Vedic mantras and reciting suitable prayers. We had this kind of reception for Srila Prabhupada in 1976 or 77 in Hyderabad. Srila Prabhupada came to open the temple there, and the devotees had invited some of the Pandits from the Sri Vaishnavas, from the disciplic succession of Ramanujacharya. They had brought some priests from the Sri Rangam temple, and they came and they were chanting the Vedic mantras in honor of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada liked it very much. He appreciated so much that these Pandits had come and they were honoring him. So that was the Vedic culture. We of course, we like to try to reintroduce the Vedic culture, that everything about it is very nice and very wonderful. Okay, so everyone's there to welcome the king. Different kinds of citizens, some common man welcomed the king. And Prabhupada comments about this, quite an interesting comment, that he says that not everyone would be so favorable to the king. Although they like to see the king, they wanted to take some blessing from him, but there would always be some people who wouldn't be so favorable to him, who would despise the king. Maybe the king didn't satisfy their desires. So King Prithu, he has a job as a king. He has to rule over the citizens. Prabhupada said the most important duty of the monarch or the government is to perform various sacrifices as enjoined in the Vedic literature. So we see like that, Maharaj Yudhisthira performing Rajasuya Yagya, these different things. So there was a duty of the monarch. The sacrifices, of course, have to be done for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And they're meant to ensure also the well-being of the planet. So that's the first duty of the monarch. And then the next duty of the king is to see every citizen performs his prescribed duties for his particular community, according to their situation. They should perform what they're supposed to do. Those who are Kshatriyas should do the work of the Kshatriya. The Vaishya should do what he's supposed to do. So the king is meant to see that this happens. He's meant to enforce these kind of situations. So Maharaj Prithu was very expert in doing everything, and he developed a great reputation throughout the universe. And he was so successful that at last he obtained the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So, of course, that's going to come later. We'll hear how Maharaj Prithu goes back to Godhead. So Maharaj Prithu's duty is to see that everyone is properly engaged. The Vedic society was like that. Division of society was meant to keep people employed. Everyone should have some work to do. The Brahmanas, they should be busy spreading spiritual knowledge, teaching people and practicing themselves. And the Kshatriyas are meant to give protection and make sure everyone's performing their duties properly. The Vaishyas are meant to do their business and take care of the cows and farming. And the Sudras are meant to do what they're told. They're not able to work on their own, they have to be instructed. And this way everyone is properly engaged. But everyone is a devotee. Everyone at least has the opportunity to be a devotee. So that is the meaning of Varnashram, that there's cooperation between the different divisions of the society. They all work to help each other. So Prabhupada then talks about the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal of everything is to be promoted to the spiritual world, which is called Parampadam. So you can see Prabhupada talking about this this is text number 7. He's talking about the real goal, everyone doing their duty so perfectly, and the perfection of their duty is, at the end of life, they will go back home, back to Godhead. And we don't want, if we come back to this material world, it means we were not successful. So ideally we want to go back to Godhead, to get out of this material world. So Prabhupada talks about the impersonalists. And so the impersonalists, they will only go to the Brahmajyoti. And they'll stay there for some time, and usually what happens is they fall back from the Brahmajyoti, come back again into the material world. So impersonalism doesn't solve the real problem of life. Then text number 8, Sutta Goswami speaking. So we're back in Naimisharanya and we're hearing the situation there. So Sutta Goswami speaking to Shonaka, and he's telling him about the different activities of King Prithu. And he's described here as the original king who was fully qualified, glorified, and widely praised all over the world. The Vidura, the great devotee, very submissively worshipped Maitreya Rishi and asked him the following question. And so Vidura is an inspiration to Maitreya. He's got so many nice questions he really wants to hear. So Vidura's question is given, next text. So, it is very enlightening to understand that King Prithu was enthroned by the great sages and brahmanas. All the demigods presented him with innumerable gifts, and he also expanded his influence upon personally receiving strength from Lord Vishnu. Thus, he greatly developed the earth. So we know that initially when Prithu Maharaj became the king, the earth was not very developed. He had to develop it. He had to do that work. He had to milk the cow. He had to get the cow to yield milk. He had to arrange for the earth to give grains and so on. So it was not such an easy task in the beginning. Just like Srila Prabhupada had to begin preaching Krishna consciousness around the world. And there were no centers, there were no devotees, there were no books, there were no temples. And so it was a lot of work, a lot of pioneering was required. And similarly, Prithu Maharaj, he had to do that kind of pioneering on the earth planet, just to arrange for the basic needs of the people, so that they could have their basic needs, and then they could go on and develop their consciousness and become more advanced in spiritual knowledge. So this is the duty of the king, to make sure the people are properly educated, and that education shouldn't be mundane, but it should be in relation to the absolute truth. So Maharaj Prithu is ruling over the earth. Process is so perfect that if it is followed, everyone will become happy, and thus it will be very easy for all to execute devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One time in New Delhi, there was this one man coming, associating in the temple, and he met Srila Prabhupada, and it turned out this man had a factory. And so Prabhupada wanted this man to make his factory Krishna conscious. He said, we will send devotees there every day, and every morning you should have kirtan for all the workers. All the workers who come to the factory, they should take part in the kirtan. And then we will have prasadam for them also. At lunchtime, we will distribute prasadam to everyone. And he said, in this way, if everyone is given this program, that every day there's chanting and prasadam, and we will speak a little bit knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, he said, you will never have any strikes. All the workers will be very happy, and they will work nicely and efficiently. So Prabhupada had these dreams. He wanted to introduce Krishna consciousness everywhere, even in the factories. Although Prabhupada is quoted, there's a purport there, third canto, where he said, factory is another name for hell. But Prabhupada was concerned about this. He cared about people, and he wanted to help them by giving them Krishna consciousness. One devotee told me he was with Srila Prabhupada one morning. They were coming from the airport. It was Sydney, Australia. And he said they had a big car for Prabhupada to take him to the temple. And Prabhupada was in the car, and he was looking out, and he saw the people going to work. And he could see them going to work, and he knew they were going to work in the factories. And the devotee told me, he said, I was sitting there and I was thinking, look at these fools, they're going to work in the factory. But he looked at Prabhupada, and Prabhupada had a tear in his eyes. And Prabhupada said, they are so unfortunate. We have to save them. We have to help them. So Prabhupada had that mood, that compassion, that caring. And that feature is there in the mood of Maharaj Prithu, that he is also very much considerate and caring about the welfare and the well-being of others. He's not just thinking only of his own self. In contrast, Prabhupada went to France, and he said to the devotees there, he said, your country is famous for revolution. Prabhupada knew that there had been a French, many years ago, more than 100 to maybe 200 years ago, there was a French Revolution. And at that time, there was a monarchy, and the Queen of France, she had been told by someone that the people of France are starving. They have no money for bread. And this foolish woman said, oh, they have no money for bread? Why don't they eat cake then? So that was her foolish reply. And it wasn't long after that the people revolted, and they overthrew the royal family, and they had to run away. Many of them were killed. They were beheaded, and it became a democratic country. But what happens is sometimes it happens like that. You get kings or queens, monarchy, who don't care about the citizens. They only care about their own self. So of course that's why monarchy failed. We were in the very culture. You had good kings, but the Kali Yuga came. The quality of the kings went down and down, and gradually all the kings lost all their power. Everything was taken from them. Just like we know in India, there used to be many kings, many kingdoms. The government took everything. Of course, it doesn't mean that everything became better. The same problems are there. Kali Yuga. Anyway, Maharaj Prithu, his kingdom was very wonderful, and he was great in his activities. You can see text number 10, his method of ruling. All the kings and demigods on the various planets still follow in his footsteps. And so Vidura is saying, I want to hear more and more about Prithu Maharaj, because his activities are so pious and auspicious. Who would not try to hear about his glorious activities? So this is Vidura. Vidura is eager to hear more about Prithu Maharaj. So Maitreya is going to speak more, tell us more about King Prithu. And we're told where he is living. The next text number is 11, that Maharaj Prithu is living in the tract of land which is between the Ganga and the Yamuna. In other words, he's living in Bharatvarsha, in India, northern India. So he was living there, but he was ruling the whole world. And so initially the whole world was ruled from Bharatvarsha, from this place. And because Maharaj Prithu was very opulent, it appeared that he was enjoying his destined fortune in order to diminish the result of his past pious activities. So Maharaj Prithu certainly must have had many wonderful activities, but he's, as described here, directly empowered incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Directly empowered. He's a Shaktavesha avatar. And so he's empowered, and he was empowered with the ability to manage the world so that everyone could cultivate their Krishna consciousness. So he was the ideal personification of expert management, that he could allow the whole planet to become Krishna conscious by his expert administration. Yeah, there are different kinds of Shaktavesha avatars. Like Narada Muni is a Shaktavesha avatar for the purpose of devotional service. Showing devotional service. The four Kumaras are Shaktavesha avatars for their knowledge, the type of knowledge which they had. That was considered that empowerment. And that empowerment comes from the Supreme Lord himself, that he empowers these different people. And we see also people like Lord Jesus Christ and Lord Buddha, although they're not from the Vedic culture, but they're also considered to be Shaktavesha avatars. Okay, so Maharaj Prithu is being described that he doesn't have past pious or impious activities. He's a devotee. So all of his past actions, everything, he's not an ordinary person. He's empowered. Right? Maharaj Prithu didn't take birth in the usual way. His body was churned from the body of his father, Maharaj Vina, Kru Vina. So from out of the body of Vina, Prithu Maharaj's body was churned. So not an ordinary birth. So Prabhupada talks about how Sanatana Goswami detected Lord Chaitanya to be a direct incarnation of Krishna. But Lord Chaitanya never allowed that to be declared. In fact, he said, if you say like that, I will leave here and I will never come here again. So Lord Chaitanya didn't like that, because his mood, Lord Chaitanya's mood, was to be a devotee. But the main point is, he's not an ordinary person. If we think of the spiritual master as an ordinary person, then that is an offense. Acharya mam vijjaniyam navyamam yeta karichit. We should know the Acharya to be representative of Lord Krishna. So never think of him as an ordinary person and never envy him. So in this way, Maharaj Prithu, he was a very great king, described here, text number 12, an unrivaled king. And he ruled all the 7 islands, the surface of the globe. No one could disobey his orders. But the saintly persons, the brahmanas, and the descendants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, the Vaishnavas. So only the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas, they could disobey the orders of Maharaj Prithu. But other people, they would follow. They would do whatever they were told. So he was ruling the whole world. The whole world was under the control of Maharaj Prithu. Just imagine how powerful, not an easy task to be in charge. Just like if you're in charge of a little temple sometimes, you're in charge of a temple and you have a number of devotees. It can be such a headache, it can be so challenging. But here's Maharaj Prithu ruling the whole world. So, this is why he is Shaktavesha avatar, that he could do these inconceivable things. So Prabhupada talks about different castes and creeds. In India, of course, people are different gotras. So sometimes people will ask Western devotees, "What is your gotra?" Right? I've been asked before. When we would go for life membership in the 1970s, we were maintaining the temple by enrolling life members. And sometimes we go and see people, and some people would ask us, "What is your gotra?" They're actually being sarcastic, because Westerners, we don't have any gotra. We're lowborn. We're from outside the Vedic culture. But Srila Prabhupada told us, he said, when they ask you like that, then you should simply tell them you are Achyuta Gotra. Right? And Prabhupada talks about that here. He said, you can see here in this purport, he said, material designations create differentiation in terms of caste, color, creed, nationality, etc. Different gotras or family designations are distinctions in terms of the material body. But when one comes to Krishna consciousness, he immediately becomes one of the Achyuta Gotra, or descendants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus becomes transcendental to all considerations of caste, creed, color, and nationality. So that's an important point we want to understand, that actually devotee Vaishnavas are not on the material platform. They're all Achyuta Gotra. They're all descendants of Krishna. So transcendental to all the considerations. However, the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas are certainly above the Kshatriyas, and they're not obliged to listen to the Kshatriya kings. Rather, the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas, they give advice. They will tell the Brahmanas, and they will tell the king what to do. They will give the instructions to the king. That's the Vedic culture, that's the cooperation which is supposed to be there in the Vedic culture. So Prabhupada quotes this important verse from the Padma Purana, Acharya Vishnu Shiladir Gurushu Naramati Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. That if we think the deity to be made of wood or stone, or if we think the spiritual master as an ordinary man, or we think the Vaishnava in the Achyuta Gotra to belong to a certain caste or creed, or if we think of Charanamrita or Ganga water as ordinary water, then that person is a resident of hell. So this is an important verse. So people in general should be controlled by a king, until they come to the platform of Vaishnavas and Brahmanas. But the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas are not under the control of anyone. But then Prabhupada adds, Brahmana refers to one who knows Brahman, or the impersonal feature, and a Vaishnava is one who serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So like that, we have to understand properly what it means to be Brahmana. Prabhupada would often tell us, to be Vaishnava, it is not an easy thing. We are trying to become Vaishnavas. Prabhupada would say like that. He said, don't think you're Vaishnava. He said, you're trying to become Vaishnavas. All right, so then the chapter goes on. Maharaj Prithu is going to perform a great sacrifice. And he's invited all the great sages and the brahmanas and the demigods from higher planets and other different saintly kings, rajarshis. They're all coming together. So we're going to hear how Maharaj Prithu gives instruction to all of these people who are coming for this function. For the first thing which happens is also Maharaj Prithu gives proper reception for everyone. And Prabhupada quotes how Lord Krishna received people when they all came for the Rajasuya Yagna. What was Lord Krishna doing at the time of the Rajasuya Yagna? How did he help in receiving the guests? Yes?
He was washing the feet.
Yes, he washed the feet of everyone who came for the yagya. He took that service to wash the feet. It's amazing. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's coming and he's washing the feet of all the visitors. So this is proper reception. Of course, in our ISKCON society, we're a little cautious about this. At least in some countries, maybe in India you can do these things. Certainly in Bangladesh, they like to do that very much. But in some parts of the world, it's very dangerous to do that because, well, for one thing, people don't like worship of a personality. If you preach in countries which are socialist, and then they're against religion, and they don't like worshipping people, they don't like personality worship, and washing someone's feet is considered like that. It's not understood, but it's very difficult to try to introduce something like that in countries where people don't have the culture. They don't have that culture, they don't have that appreciation for these things, and they become shocked. Of course, we do have that problem. I know, like in London, in our Soho Street Temple in London, we have a lunch program, and people often come there. And I don't know, I haven't been there for a long time, but in the past, that you'd come there, and somehow the nature of England, it's very damp, and people often come with smelly feet. Their feet are so smelly that before they go in the temple room, you have to tell them, can you please go and wash your feet? Their socks are not clean, they haven't changed their socks in a week probably, and the socks are all smelly, and it can be very uncomfortable in the temple room when you get a bunch of people like that with smelly feet. But here in the Vedic culture, of course, washing the feet, well, it was just expected, people coming out of, not everybody would be wearing shoes for a start. People would be walking and maybe walk in the dust, to walk on the ground, to clean their feet, wash their feet. But of course, demigods and great sages, they don't really need their feet washed, but out of respect for them, out of respect, we do these things. And Lord Krishna didn't do this only one time. Do you know some other situations where Lord Krishna washed someone's feet?
He washed feet of the Brahmana, Sudama, Vipra.
Yes, he washed Sudama's feet, right. Lord Krishna teaching us. He is the Supreme Lord, but he wants to teach us these things. So the proper reception was arranged for all these people. So then we hear descriptions about Maharaj Prithu, his physical appearance, and certainly it's very attractive, very powerful. He's Kshatriya, so he's very strong, tall and sturdy. His complexion is fair. Everything about him is very wonderful. His teeth are beautifully shining. His personality is grave. His face is beautiful. His nose is straight. It's not all bent. So Prabhupada said, the face is the index of the mind. One's mental constitution is understood by his facial features. The bodily features of a person are exhibited by his past deeds. According to one's past deeds, his next bodily features are determined. Prabhupada said this is proof of the transmigration of the soul through different types of bodies. We see how people's physical forms very much indicate their nature. You can tell sometimes just by looking at people. You can understand, are they angry or are they peaceful? Are they happy? We can tell just from their appearance, their facial appearance. So Maharaj Prithu, the description is given, everything about him very nice, and he's wearing a valuable dhoti, a nice wrapper on his chest. And they had to do some ceremony where he had to take off his dress and put on a black deer skin and wear a ring of kusha grass on his finger. So this is for the purpose of the sacrifice, that they had to do these things. So at that time, while he was changing, putting on a black deerskin, they could see his physical form, and they could appreciate how powerful and how perfect everything about his physical features were. So Maharaj Prithu then begins to speak to the people. He looks at the people and he sees they're all looking at him, and so he begins to speak to them and give them some words of wisdom. And we're told everything about his voice, that was very beautiful, full of metaphorical language. Prabhupada one of Srila Prabhupada's very first disciple, before he ever went to America, there was one man who was Srila Prabhupada's very first disciple. And he was actually a scholar. And this man, who was Srila Prabhupada's very first disciple, when he would speak, sometimes he would recite poetry. He would compose poetry in his mind. Just like Keshava Kashmiri was meeting Lord Chaitanya, he was composing verses glorifying Mother Ganga. So Srila Prabhupada had a disciple like that, who, the very first disciple of Prabhupada, he could give a talk and he would compose some poetry just off the spur of the moment. He could compose a verse of poetry. And so Maharaj Prithu was like that. He had very nice language and presented everything very clear, so there were no doubts, no ambiguity. The meaning of everything he was saying was very clear. So then text 21, Maharaj Prithu begins to give his instructions to the audience. And he begins by blessing them. May you all have good fortune. All you great souls have come to this meeting. Hear my prayer. A person who is actually inquisitive must present his decision before an assembly of noble souls. Right? If you have something important to say, you want to present it before an audience and find out what everyone thinks, what's everyone's opinion. So Maharaj Prithu is humble like that. Prabhupada said, as a great king, he could have given them orders, but he was so humble, meek and honest that he presented his statements for approval in order to clarify his decision. So he didn't just think, I'm the king, I decide everything, I'm right, everything is perfect. But he put it before the audience and he asked them all, what do you think? Do you agree? And Srila Prabhupada could do that too also. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada would call the devotees to his room, not a lot, but maybe one or two like that, and he'd ask them, what do you think? What should we do? He wanted to know about, what was their opinion. If there were problems, he would ask the devotees. He didn't think that, well, I'm the guru, I know everything, I decide everything. But he was so humble, and he was willing to hear and take suggestions. Just like you can see if you get a Back to Godhead magazine, in the center of the Back to Godhead magazine, you'll see they have a section which is taken from Srimad Bhagavatam. They have an insert there in the Back to Godhead magazine. Every 2 months it comes out. Now it's bi-monthly, or twice a month. Once every 2 months. So you get six issues a year. But anyway, in the center of the Back to Godhead, they have a section which is just, it's just taken from Srimad Bhagavatam. What happened was, one man came there, one life member, he was speaking to Srila Prabhupada, and he had the Back to Godhead magazine, and he was looking at it, and he said to Srila Prabhupada, he said, Swamiji, why don't you put your Srimad Bhagavatam inside the Back to Godhead magazine? And Prabhupada thought about it, and he said, that's a very good idea. And he ordered his secretary, write immediately a message to Los Angeles and tell them every issue of Back to Godhead, they must print a section from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so it was one guest who was there, he had that an idea and sent to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada took it up and arranged to do it. So like that, Maharaj Prithu, he's come before all of these people, demigods, great sages, different kings, and he's speaking to them and he wants to know from them, what do you think? Maharaj Prithu is going to talk to them about his ideas about how the world has to be managed nicely for the success of all the people on the planet. So Maharaj Prithu, text 22, he says, I've been appointed the king. And he said, I have to protect the citizens from all danger. I have to give them employment according to their proper positions. So this is the duty of the king. And Prabhupada writes in the purport how the king is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, Opulences of the Absolute, chapter 10, Krishna says, among men, I am the monarch. So the monarch, the king, is the representative of God on the planet. In order to become a king, you have to have a lot of piety. You have to have a lot of good karma to get that kind of position. And we had the same thing, I know myself, in being brought up in England. In the UK, we had also the Queen. Now we have a king, but they have the national anthem, and it's "God Save the King, God Save the King, bless the King." It's like that because the king or the queen is understood to be the representative of God. And so everyone respects, everyone gives a lot of honor and respect to the king and the queen. Nowadays you don't have so much kings or queens, but you have presidents, you have rulers, sometimes you have dictators, different people take the position of the king, modern day king. Some countries like that, they don't even have elections. They just have somebody who takes power. He's in charge, and it's for life. No, there's no elections. It's just he's the ruler. So he's actually a king, without having the title king. He's in the position of a king. So Prabhupada talks that people don't know what is actually their position. We don't know who's a Brahmin, who's a Kshatriya, who's a Vaishya, who's a Sudra. Everyone's confused. They don't know what is their real duty. When there's a war, send everyone to the war to fight. But people are not all soldiers. The people who are meant to go to war, they're meant to be the Kshatriyas, who have that nature. So Maharaj Prithu was concerned about the welfare of the people. He wants that they should have proper engagement for themselves. When they're properly engaged, then they will be satisfied. Just like if you ask someone to study, if their nature is not Brahminical, they won't be very happy to study. If you ask someone to worship the deity, if they don't have a Brahminical nature, it will be difficult for them to do it. We had the experience one time, one temple, someone was asked to do the arti for the deities, and it was meant to be a full arti. It was a Raj Bhog. After offering the Raj Bhog, he was meant to perform the full arti, but he did the whole arti in 2 minutes, and I was shocked that he finished the arti so quickly. And I mentioned to Tamal Krishna Goswami, and he investigated, and then they understood that this boy really wasn't qualified to do the puja, and they had to take him out and replace him. Anyway, these things happen. You get people, they try to be Brahmanas, they're not really Brahminical. In the same way, Kshatriyas, the Kshatriya, Prabhupada tells the story about the king who came home from the battle defeated. And when he came home, the queen wouldn't open the door to the palace. She said, my husband doesn't come home defeated. Either he dies on the battlefield or he is victorious, but he doesn't come home defeated. So she said, you cannot be my husband. You must be an impostor. I'm not opening the door. So, like that, Kshatriya also, you have to be qualified. Not easy to be a Kshatriya. So people need to be trained. Sanatana Goswami quotes that anyone can become a Brahmana. They have to be initiated and trained by a bona fide spiritual master. Then they can become Brahmanas. So not everyone is willing to undergo the training. That is the difficulty. They're not really Brahmanas. In order to take the position of a Brahmana, there has to be this training. Okay. Maharaj Prithu continues, text number 23. We're up to. He talks about destination. He said, I will be able to achieve the desirable objectives. My duties as a king, I'll be able to achieve the desired objectives described by experts in Vedic knowledge. This destination is certainly achieved by the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the seer of all destiny. So pleasing the Supreme Lord, that is the challenge, that we have to do our service in such a way that we can please the Lord, and then we can be assured of a good destination. Prabhupada writes in the purport, he said, it is not that if one executes his duty properly, he is automatically promoted. For promotion depends upon the satisfaction of the personality of Godhead. It must ultimately be concluded that one can achieve the desired result of his activities upon satisfying the Supreme Lord. Our real purpose, our real business is to satisfy the Lord. Whatever we do, do it for His pleasure. So that mood of pleasing the Lord, that is the important thing. It's not just you do your duty perfectly, but with no consciousness of doing it for the Lord. If you just do it to get some money, just do it to earn some income, that is not real service to the Lord. There has to be that sense of consciousness. In the Nectar of Instruction, in the preface to the Nectar of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada writes, everything depends on the attitude of the disciple, the attitude in which we do everything. So Maharaj Prithu is also indicating this, that the attitude is very important. It's not just only working and I'm doing my work, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But there has to be that mood that we want to actually please the Supreme Lord, do it for His pleasure. So that is real God consciousness. And that's why Prabhupada wanted to do things like encourage people to have kirtan, let them have prasadam, make them happy, help them to become God conscious. So you can see how the Krishna consciousness movement has a difficult task. Prabhupada writes here at the end of the purport of 23, the Krishna consciousness movement has therefore been started to give philosophers, scientists, and people in general the proper knowledge about the destiny of life. Everyone should take advantage of this movement and learn the real goal of life. So we ask all of you, how do you feel the Krishna consciousness movement is doing? Have you any thoughts about how we could improve on helping people to understand more about the destiny of life? To help people in general, to give them that knowledge about the destiny of life. How can we go about this? Someone can respond?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. We could have some more educational institutions of ISKCON where people can have specific courses on Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, like that. Like we have material universities and schools like that. We can work more on that aspect.
Well, do you think that would be popular? And most people, they haven't heard even of Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. Bhagavad Gita is popular.
Bhagavad Gita.
Bhagavad Gita is certainly popular, but do you think we could popularize other books?
Like associated with ISKCON, we can at least those. We can start with Bhagavad Gita.
We want to reach out, right? We have to reach out more to people. We don't, okay, we have our congregation. We shouldn't just be satisfied, just only, we have some devotees, we have our we have to think how to reach out to other people, to the non-devotee, how to reach out to other people in other walks of life.
We can reach them through cinema, if like in future, if we can work on that aspect, because that's very popular amongst people. So if we can depict some movies, some based on our literatures from Srimad Bhagavatam.
Make a movie.
We can have dramas in schools for like Bhagavatam stories and lessons from the Bhagavatam. We can get invited to schools who are sometimes doing value education, or like in the UK, like we've got Interfaith Week and stuff like that. And during that time, we get invited to share about the faith. So, you could share some Bhagavatam stories with them.
Oh, are they happy to hear it? Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we get called in for full day workshops to teach them about the basic, like the 5 topics of the Gita. Then we might do a bit of a drama. Then we'll show them like a Vedic wedding. And they find it very fascinating.
Oh.
So, yeah, they're very interested. We get invited back year on year.
A whole day program, huh? For the full day. Not just one lecture, not just 1 hour or something.
No, just a whole day. Sometimes we get invited to do it.
Okay. So those are special schools which are open-minded. Are the government schools?
Yeah, they're government schools. So, Bhaktivedanta Manor, they have like ISKCON educational services. So part of the syllabus is that they have to learn about Hinduism. So devotees, they go in to schools and they get paid to go into schools and do all-day workshops. Or schools come in and visit the manor and they do all-day workshops about the basic philosophy of Hinduism. They'll do drama, they'll do dress up, they'll do all sorts of things like that. And in all public schools, it's like quite a big thing. which is quite popular in the UK.
Okay. So you're reaching out to the younger people there, school children,
Primary and secondary schools.
primary and secondary. Good. Does it help? And are you able to make connections? Do you ever get devotees from that?
See, we're not allowed to convert people, so we're not allowed to convert them, but we can teach them about various things. But what we do find is that people come to us in the future and say, I remember you came to my school, and like they'll be grown-ups and working in the office, and then they'll say, we remember you came to our school and we want to know more. So they'll have some seed will be planted while they're at school.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, we do need to think about how to reach out to people, how to share this knowledge, tell them about the laws of nature.
Maharaj, we can have more of outreach programs and pandal programs like we read in Lilamrita and other places where Prabhupada's disciples, they explain how huge pandal programs used to be there in Bombay and other places. So like that.
Yes, well, that was good initially, but you can't expect to go on like that, really. You may get a good crowd initially, but you find out in the long run, that's it's not an ongoing program. Prabhupada did that to introduce Krishna consciousness to people. But once the temples are established, then it's not really practical, or not really feasible.
Maharaj, I'm not sure if you're aware about the Kirtan yoga kind of phenomenon in the UK and America. So they start off in yoga studios saying, "Oh, we're going to do mantra yoga," and then they come in their yoga pants and stuff, and then they actually do kirtan, and they get them to repeat the mantras and things like that. So that's really big as well in the UK. And now we're having big concerts where thousands of like Western people are coming to do kirtan, and gradually the philosophy is being introduced to them. And not necessarily we're making them devotees, but they are chanting the holy name regularly, like on beads, and they come to these concerts, or every Friday night they'll come, or every Thursday night they'll come. So instead of going to clubs and pubs and things like that, they're coming to do kirtan on Friday nights.
Where do they do the kirtan?
This is in the whole of the UK, so they'll hire out like churches or concert halls even. They'll even book tickets to go to these places. It's called Kirtan Yoga. So when you're in the UK next, or when you are in the UK, please come along to one of the events. It'd be lovely to have you there.
Kirtan yoga. Yeah, well, that kind of thing is going on everywhere. I do see, other countries we do a lot of kirtan, and the yoga studios, they're the most easily accessible means to that kind of program. We get a good response from the yoga studios, but yoga studios, that's limited, to a particular class, particular kind of people. We need to think about reaching out into other avenues, other lanes where you can contact a greater number of people who are not so much into yoga, who are not, not in the asana field or something. So certainly the courses on the Gita were very good, and that during COVID that was very successful. It did introduce the Bhagavad Gita and helped a lot of people to hear the Bhagavad Gita, the main points from Bhagavad Gita. We got a good response in some parts of some countries, not everywhere. Like in Malaysia, there was a good response. In India, of course, there was very good response, but not everywhere. We didn't have much success with it in Russia and other China, Taiwan, also these places difficult. Of course, our main program, Sankirtan, going out in public, on the streets, public chanting, that's very nice, very, very good. But sometimes it puts people off. They don't like that. They feel, oh, it's so strange. They're in public and they're chanting, and sometimes people get a bit put off by that. The public presentation. Just being out there and chanting. Prasadam distribution is of course very, very good thing. Vegetarian cooking classes also help. Book distribution, somehow trying to distribute books, not always so successful. We're always thinking. Some places it can be very good. Certainly in the USA, it's going very well. A lot of books are being distributed there. I'm sure in the UK also you can distribute a lot of books there. Okay, so we'll take a break for 10 minutes. We'll come back. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome back.
Krishna Maharaj.
Everyone? Yeah, everyone there? Okay. We'll go ahead. So we're up to text number 24 in this chapter. We're hearing Maharaj Prithu giving instructions to his audience. And he's talking about the responsibilities of the king. He says, you have to teach the citizens about their duties. It's not just a question of taking taxes. If he simply takes taxes, then he's also going to take their karma, he's going to take their sinful reactions. So the king has to be able to guide the people. This is an important point in relation to our Krishna consciousness movement also, that we bring people into Krishna consciousness, a congregation. You know, we don't just want to only take donations from them, but we have to give them guidance, we have to give them instructions, we have to protect them from their sinful activities, we have to discourage them, we have to warn them about the responsibility of the human life. So sometimes we just only think, just get the donations, just flatter them and get some money from them. But that's not our real duty. Our real duty is to awaken them. So in the purport of this next text, this text 24, Prabhupada brings up the point. He said, someone may eat in a place which is very sinful, so he shares in the reactions of the sinful activities which are performed there. So this is something people don't know about. You know, they often just go and eat. They don't think about the place where you're eating, where you're getting the food from. And then Prabhupada goes on to discuss about the Vedic culture, how when a householder may be doing some ritual or some kind of some ceremonial performance in the house, then it's customary that they will invite the brahmanas to come and eat. They would like to feed the brahmana. They have the brahmana bhojan, right? And the brahmanas and the Vaishnavas, they'll be given invitations to come and eat. And the idea is that they will take away any sinful reactions which are there in the home. So Srila Prabhupada was very strict about that. He warned the devotees, they must be very careful not to eat in places where people are not vegetarian. He warned the devotees that if you eat food from the homes of non-devotees, then you will get their sinful reactions, you'll take their karma. He said the only thing you can take from people would be uncut fruit. It should not be cut, because if it's cut, they may use a knife which has been used to cut meat. And so that means that the fruit would become contaminated due to the contact with the impure knife. So Prabhupada said there are many subtle laws which are practically unknown to people in general. But the Krishna consciousness movement is very scientifically distributing all this Vedic knowledge for the benefit of the people of the world. Can you think of some other subtle laws which are unknown to people in general? Anyone? I'd like to hear from you. What would be some of the subtle laws which are unknown to people?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, the regulative principles itself?
Yes, certainly. Regulative principles. People never could imagine these things.
Sharing clothes.
Sorry?
Sharing clothes. As in sharing each other's clothes. If you borrow somebody's jacket or coat or whatever, you exchange karma when you are, wearing somebody else's clothing.
Well, maybe you need. What if it's winter time and you don't have a jacket? Somebody gives you a jacket. You're going to take it or not? Is it going to? Yeah, I mean, generally, yeah, we don't usually share clothes, but I've never really heard a lot about that. That sharing clothes, taking people's clothes. Yeah, I guess there is some problem, particularly shoes like that. You want to be careful. Anything else?
Like Maharaj criticizing others, where we take 1/6 of their karma. When we glorify devotee, we take 1/6 of the piety.
Okay, speaking good about people, certainly good for us to praise them, see good in others, see faults in ourselves.
Maharaj, one other thing is a lot of people are unaware of the glories of Tulsi Maharani, and they look upon her as just another. I mean, while they understand that there is some religious significance to the Tulsi plant, but then they use it for many material purposes. In terms of using Tulsi Maharani as a medicinal plant, boiling her and making tea and other concoctions and so on. So when we tell them that that is forbidden from a Shastric perspective, that creates some kind of, it's an aha moment for them.
Yes, they take it, they abuse Tulsi Maharani, they don't use it in the devotional way. They think we take it for some medicinal purposes. Yeah. One thing I was distributing a set of Srimad Bhagavatam to one man, and he read the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he said, I've learned from the Srimad Bhagavatam about how to conceive children, that you're supposed to do it, samskara, that's a religious process to beget children. This man said, I've got 6 children. He said, I never knew this before. He said, it could have been so much different. He said, I could have attracted pure souls into the womb of my wife. Instead, he said, my children, many of them, they all had problems. They grew up, they got divorced, and some drug addiction, and different problems with the children. He said, if I'd known the Vedic concept and using Garbhadan Samskar, my wife and I, we could have brought in some good souls as children instead of the souls we got. So that was one thing.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaji?
Like if husband is serving the Lord nicely and wife is serving the husband nicely, then she gets the benefit of the devotional service that husband is doing.
They share each other's spiritual
Yes, Maharaj.
advancement.
Yes, Maharaj. And also the king and the praja. King has to take, I think, 1/6 karma of the praja, something.
Yeah, it's true that the wife enjoys the pious activities of the husband, or the husband enjoys the pious activities of the wife. If they do some pious activities, then they share their karma, the husband and wife. So it's certainly an advantage for them. If the wife is a religious person then the husband certainly benefits from that. At the same time, if they engage in sinful activities, if they're not religious, then it's also a problem that how to protect yourself from that. Now, some ladies are unfortunate that they become Krishna conscious after their marriage, and their husbands are not devotees and not very religiously inclined, and may have a lot of bad habits. And so the wife has to protect herself. She simply has to protect herself by surrendering to Krishna. And so Krishna will protect the devotee. So these kind of issues are there. It's certainly important for us to know about these things, the subtle laws. Subtle laws, what determines our next life? Where do we take our next birth? It depends on what we're thinking at the time of death. Of course, sometimes people misunderstand this, and they think, well, I'll wait till the time of death. At the time of death, I will be like Ajamil and I will chant the name of the Lord. But it's not so easy. It's not like that. Ajamila had chanted the name of his son many times before. So when he chanted at the time when the Yamadutas came, it was a natural impulse for him to call for his son. But he got remembrance of the Lord at that time. Anyway, there's a subtle law that whatever you remember at the end of life, you'll take that state. If you die in the mode of passion, you'll take birth in the mode of passion. If you die in the mode of ignorance, you take birth in the mode of ignorance. And if you die in the mode of goodness, you're elevated to the higher realms. But if we can remember Krishna at the end of life, then you never have to come back again. So it's a subtle law. There are many subtle laws which are unknown to people. Even there are things that many of our devotees don't know about sometimes. Devotees, we're always learning more.
Maharaj, the dust of the pure devotees, lotus feet, that also is so purifying, and the water that has washed the feet of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, right. The water, we'll hear about that. It's coming up, and Prithu Maharaj also glorifies the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees and the water of the Ganges, like that. These things are very important. Okay, thank you. So Prithu Maharaj continues, text 25, my dear citizens, for the welfare of your king, you should execute your duties properly. For the welfare of the king, you want to do that. You should always think of the Lord within your heart, and then you will protect your own interests, and you will bestow mercy upon your king for his welfare after death. So the king he wants to see some reciprocation. He has a duty for the citizens. The citizens, they should also think to help the king. They should also do something, pray for the king, help the king. Bestow your mercy on the king. So then text 26, Maharaj Prithu says, I request all you pure-hearted souls, saintly persons, to support my proposal, for after death the result of an action is equally shared by its doer, its director, and its supporter. So Prabhupada writes there about that. Anyone who cooperates with the Krishna consciousness movement or accepts its principles will get the same result as the workers who are actively propagating Krishna consciousness. It's a very nice blessing to give people who support our movement. That not only the devotees get, the devotees are actively propagating Krishna consciousness, but anyone who just accepts the principles, they also get benefit. They'll also get a lot of blessing. They'll get, in fact, Prabhupada said, they'll get the same result. You don't even have to become a devotee. You just have to be favorable and appreciate the Krishna consciousness and cooperate, and you get the same result as the devotees. Wonderful. So Maharaj Prithu is arguing to the audience. He wants to convince them that there is a Supreme Lord over everything. That he is giving different arguments to support this. He said there must be a Supreme Authority who is able to award the benefits of our present activities. Otherwise, why should there be persons who are unusually beautiful and powerful, both in this life and in the life after death? So in the purport, many different examples are given by Srila Prabhupada. He preaches a lot to us about this, because we often meet atheistic people, people they don't believe, and I don't believe the next life, I don't believe life after death, no, I don't believe reincarnation, I don't believe there's a God, you've never seen him, how can you tell me there's a God? So Prabhupada gives a lot of arguments about this. And of course, in our preaching, we have to deal with these things. Prabhupada said, atheistic people, they think everything happening is due to our physical arrangement and chance. They believe in the atheistic Sankhya philosophy. Everything is a combination of matter. Life comes from matter. They think everything just comes from chemicals. That is their thinking. They don't believe in the injunctions of the Vedas. The Vedas are just simply theories, no application in life. And there cannot be many varieties of existence without the plan of a superior intelligence. The atheists, they vaguely explain that the varieties of existence occur simply by chance. But the theists who believe in the injunctions of the Vedas must reach all their conclusions under the direction of the Vedas. And so I know that atheism is, it's everywhere. And they have their own organizations, just as we have our Society for Krishna Consciousness. The atheists also have their organization. They have their atheistic societies. I heard there was some advertisement, some atheist society, they had an advertisement put on the side of a bus which was going through the streets of London, the public bus. They had actually paid to put some atheistic announcement on the side of a bus. And the bus driver was a religious man. He didn't want to drive the bus with that atheistic thing on this. Quite right. So you get these kind of situations. In Australia, in Canberra, Australian National University, we have some devotees there, they were doing a program, and they told me that the Atheist Society came along, and they have their program too. And they came and they saw the devotees, and they immediately began ridiculing them and mocking them, saying nasty things to them. So that's the way of the materialistic people. You have to expect that. But we have to understand how we have to be able to preach to all these different people. And Prabhupada points to Shankaracharya. He said, Shankaracharya, he taught the impersonal philosophy. And Prabhupada says this impersonalism is more dangerous than the atheist philosophy. Atheists vaguely explain the varieties of existence. But the followers of Shankaracharya, they use Shastra to present their atheistic philosophy. Of course, they say we're all God, or God is one and we're all one with God. So that idea of oneness, that is also atheism, but it's in a perverted form. So Prithu Maharaj, he says the theistic man will reject the views of the atheists. They will say there cannot be many varieties of existence without the plan of a superior intelligence. Everywhere we can see there's some organization, there's some plan. Who made it? And the atheists, the materialists, they'll say, oh, it just happened, just by chance. But where do you see these things happening just by chance? It's not true. Nothing happens by chance. Someone's behind everything. And we have to understand these things. We have to present these things. So people who don't follow the Vedas, they're called Gnostic or atheists. And the Mayavadi philosophy is more dangerous than the Buddhists and the Shankarite philosophy. They have to imagine a shape of God. So they deny the existence of God, but at the same time they imagine God has a form. So Lord Chaitanya said, Mayavadi aparadi, they are offenders to the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada gives an extensive purport here, gives many arguments against atheism and against impersonalism. So this is Srila Prabhupada's mission, to present Lord Chaitanya's mission. Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine. Preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya in the Western world to defeat Nirvishesha and Shunyavadi, the philosophies of impersonalism and voidism. The Buddhists are preaching voidism, and the impersonalists are teaching oneness or impersonalism. So Lord Chaitanya's philosophy defeats both of these arguments. And we have to learn the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We have to expose these teachings to people. So it starts, we get people to chant the Mahamantra. That puts a seed in their heart. That's the beginning of their spiritual journey. Let people get a taste for the holy name. Getting them to chant. That's very good. That's the beginning. Let them chant the holy name. But then we do want to give them some philosophy to support it. Otherwise their chanting will never bear fruit. We have to get them to chant regularly. Kirtan is helping, that's the beginning, to get some taste for kirtan. Then we want to get them to chant on beats, get them to read Prabhupada's books. It's very important. We've got to give them that knowledge. We've got to get them to hear. We want them to follow the process of bhakti. The process of bhakti, so it begins with chanting Hare Krishna. But we want them to go on from there. And that requires, that's where the work comes in, to get people to take up the process, to chant regularly, to chant on beads, to avoid the offenses, and to read Prabhupada's books. All of these things are very important, to get them to follow the process of bhakti. So there are instructions, there are laws we have to follow. People have to follow these instructions. In the beginning, we just get people chant and dance, eat prasadam. That's the beginning. But then we want them to do it regularly. We want them to take it up, keep up this chanting and chant regularly and hear. By chanting and eating prasadam, then they get the seed, they begin their spiritual journey. But we've got to give them some knowledge. We've got to get them willing to hear. They have to be willing to sit and hear. And we have to present this Vedic teaching to them. So, of course, you've got many wonderful preachers there. Different devotees are coming around everywhere, traveling, preaching, presenting Krishna consciousness. They're using so many different methods to present Krishna consciousness, PowerPoint presentations and dramatical performances, very nice, lively kirtans. All of these things help to bring people into Krishna consciousness. But we want them to become serious, to take up the process. So Prabhupada talks about the theory of chants. He says this refers to pious activities performed without the actor's knowledge. He says the theory of chants is explained by the words agyata sukriti. It's just by chance. You do some devotional service, that's by chance. Unknowingly, you don't know what you were doing, but you did it anyway. Like many of these people are coming to, maybe you're coming to your yoga, kirtan yoga, and they're hearing the holy name. So they're not really serious about devotional service, but they get some agyata sukriti, and they get a lot of piety from this. So we come and we try to educate people, we try to talk to them, make friends with them, bring them into Krishna consciousness, try to save their lives from material suffering, bring them into Krishna consciousness, get them to surrender to Krishna. All right, and then Prithu Maharaj goes on to talk about other people who have shown the example of Krishna consciousness. He gives examples, great personalities, Manu, Uttanapad, Dhruva, Priyavrat, and he said, my grandfather, Anga, as well as many other great personalities. And then he mentions also Maharaj Prahlad and Bali Maharaj, all of whom are theists, believing in the existence of God. And so he was talking that there are people who are atheists, but these great souls, they're theists. They all believe in God. So why shouldn't you believe in God? Sometimes people think, oh, no, nobody believes in God today. But actually, there's a lot of great souls who believe in God. Many wonderful people sing songs about God, and they're actually devotees. And some of them are big politicians, some of them are successful businessmen, some of them famous movie actors, and so on. But they believe in God. They can understand God as a person. We have a relationship with Him. And just like thousands and millions of years ago, there were great souls like Manu, Uttanapada, and Dhruva. They all believed in God. And today also there are many people who believe in God. When Prabhupada quotes the Mahajans, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada writes about the modern day Mahajans. There, you have the Mahajans from a long time ago, but you have also modern day Mahajans. And Prabhupada mentions Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He said Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladeva Jabusan. These are the modern day Mahajans. And we can have even more. There will be many Mahajans in the future also. So Maharaj Prithu talks about his own family, his own father. He said, my father, Vighna, although an abominable person, his father was Vighna, he was killed by the cursing of the Brahmanas. He was so sinful, he was so hated. The Brahmanas cursed him to die, and he died. But Maharaj Prithu understood that Venu, he was the grandson of death personified. He had that unfortunate birth, right? So from birth he already had that demoniac nature. So sometimes it happens like that. People are just born in these kind of situations. They're just demoniac. So anyway, Vena was lucky. He was killed by the Brahmanas before he could do any more sinful activities. The Brahmanas cursed him. He was an atheist, he did not believe in God, and he stopped all the Vedic ceremonies. So that's the nature of the demons. They don't like to do ritualistic ceremonies, they don't go to temples, they won't take Charanamrita. One person told me they brought some prasadam home. It was a lady, and she said, I offered the prasadam to my husband. I said, would you like some prasadam? He said, no, I don't want to get purified. Oh. So you get people like that. You get these nasty atheistic people. They don't want to get purified. So even though they're given the opportunity, they're unfortunate souls. So atheists, they think there's no need to accept the authority of the Supreme Lord. They say it's enough just to be a good person, just to be honest, that's enough. No need to accept God. They say, I'm a good person, I work hard, make money, of course, use it all for sense gratification. So Prabhupada, in this section, you can see Prabhupada writing a lot, dealing with the philosophy of people today, the mass of people, unfortunate souls, who are just simply conditioned to atheistic thinking. They don't want to believe in God. They have no religion. They think it's all a waste of time. And they think, anyway, at the time of death, everything is finished. Right? That's their thinking. So Prithu Maharaj, he didn't accept the authority of people like that. He was very clear about this. Rules and regulations are, for common people, oh, too difficult, rules and regulations. Cannot be bothered to do these things. Tell people you can't eat this, you can't eat that. Oh, so I can't do this. And so you get people that they don't want to have, they have no sense of control. Pavritim cha nivritim cha janana vidur asuraha. They don't know what should be done and what should not be done. Neither truthfulness nor morale, anything, no good qualities can be found in them. So this is the nature of the demons. And a lot of people are in this position where we have to deal with this every day when we go out trying to distribute Krishna consciousness. So we have to, if we study, if we hear this knowledge of Maharaj Prithu, what he is saying in the arguments, then we have to accept that there is a God. It's so logical. There must be a person, some intelligent being behind this world. Because everywhere we see order and creation. Who did it? There must be somebody behind it all. So, to understand that there is a God, that's the first step, to get people to accept that there is such a person. Prabhupada gives an example. He said, there may be two men who have the same moral standards of ethics. Both are honest and moral, but their personalities are still not the same. Similarly, in economic development, two men work very hard, day and night. Still, the results are not the same. One person may enjoy opulence without even working, whereas another person, although working very hard, he doesn't get even 2 sufficient meals a day. So, how can you explain these things? There must be some reason for it. It's not just chance. Some reason, something is behind it all. And of course, for devotees, these things are not a mystery. Prabhupada continues giving more arguments. He said, someone who has sufficient food is not happy in the family life. And sometimes he's not even married. He can't find a wife. And so he has no happiness. Whereas another person, even though not economically well off, has the greatest opportunity for sense gratification. So the opportunities for sense gratification are not the same for everyone. It varies for different people. And sometimes we see, the dog is in having more sense gratification than the human. The dog is sitting comfortably in the big home with air conditioning, and they bring him food. It's very comfortable. Sits in the armchair all day. The man goes out to work, the dog sits at home and enjoys the home. So the dog is having a better life than the man. So there must be someone who determines the different standards of happiness. the different standards of enjoyment and suffering. There's somebody who's determining all these things. It's not just by chance. And so, if we want to get out of this world, we have to understand there's someone also, we have to get his approval that we're qualified to get out of this world. So Prabhupada continues, Maharaj Prithu indicated, in spite of having rich parents, children, in spite of having rich parents, children are sometimes not happy. Similarly, in spite of valuable medicine administered by a competent physician, sometimes a patient dies. Or in spite of having a big safe boat, sometimes a man drowns. We had the example, it was Ambarish Prabhu. Ambarish Prabhu is the grandson of Henry Ford from the Ford Motor Company. So it happened some years ago, his mother passed away. So he brought his mother's ashes to Mayapur to place in the Ganga. And he told devotees, he said, you know, one thing I learned from my mother, he said, I learned from her that even if you have money, you're not happy. Doesn't mean you'll be happy. He said, so many people think if you have money, you'll be happy. But he said, I learned from my mother. We said, you know, we had a lot of money. She had a lot of money, but she was not happy. So just having money doesn't make people happy. And then another thing, you may have the best medicine, but still people can't get cured. We had this one man, he went all the way to America to get surgery done. He was to have a bypass operation done on the heart. So he went all the way to America to one of the best hospitals in the world, and you know, best top surgeon and everything. And so still he passed away, he died in the operation. So these things happen, you know, you may have the best medicine, it doesn't save you. And you may be on the big boat. In the Middle East, they had this big boat at the side of, it was just on the side of there's an island, Bahrain, and there was a boat there, and they arranged this big party on the boat. They had this boat, and just by the side of the shore, and so many big men came to go on the party on the boat, and the boat sank, and so many of these big men died. Nobody could imagine the boat. It was just at the shore. But the boat sank and so many big men, big businessmen died. How do these things happen? So we have to understand there's a controller behind everything. Material nature doesn't control, it's under the control. The material nature is controlled. We know from the Bhagavad Gita, Maya Jakshena Prakriti, material nature is under my control. So in this way, Prithu Maharaj is preaching to the people. He wants them to understand there is a Supreme Lord. So in the next verse, he talks about serving the lotus feet of the Lord. You want to get some success, you want to get some blessing, we should serve the Supreme Lord. Do some service. And then he talks about the Ganga, the Ganges water. Take a little water, it cleanses the mind, can spiritualize the consciousness. So the water of the Ganges can purify, help to purify a person's consciousness. Even Shankaracharya says that. A little Ganges water and knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita can liberate a person. So we need to get the blessings of the Lord. The Ganges water is the water which has washed the lotus feet of the Lord. By drinking the water of the Ganges, you get some blessings from the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada talks about taking sinful reactions. At the end of the purport of 31, he said, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore states, the spiritual master who plays the part of Krishna's representative has to consume all the sinful reactions of the disciples. And then at the end he says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised that one not accept many disciples. So being a spiritual master is certainly a risky business. How can we avoid these? How can we protect our spiritual masters from this risk? What can you say?
Maharaj, follow our vows properly.
Well, that's you, but what about all the other people? You know, I mean, you're just one person. The spiritual master may have many disciples, and maybe many other people who want to get initiated also. Are you going to tell them, no, my guru's already got me, he doesn't want any more disciples, I'm enough? Right? He only wants one disciple, I'm his only disciple. No, of course, your spiritual master may have many disciples. So, you know, are you going to tell your guru to go on initiating, or you tell him to stop? What do you think? What can we do to protect the gurus? Giri Gopal, you're a disciple of Jayapataka Swami, isn't it?
Yes, Guru. Yes, Maharaj.
How many disciples does he have?
He has more than 50,000.
Much more than 50,000.
I heard 70 and it's going to 80, something like that.
I heard 1 lakh.
1 lakh, yes, possible.
Yeah. So, what do you think?
Lot of things, Maharaj.
Huh?
Lots of things, following vows and sadhana.
Are you going to bring more disciples to him? I mean, if you make some devotees, you'll bring them to him for initiation?
Not really. I leave it to them to decide who they want to take initiation. I don't have that thing like you only must take from Jayapataka Maharaj. I leave it to them who they want to take initiation.
Mm-hmm.
So many of my Avayatra devotees are your disciples.
Not many. Half a dozen.
They also got one Bhakti Vikas Maharaj disciple.
Jai.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't get too many gurus coming there.
Yeah, nowadays not much coming there. But a lot of other preachers coming. But during convention was good. A lot of sannyasis was there. A lot of gurus was there. But otherwise, regularly not many coming nowadays. A lot of other preachers are coming, Maharaj.
But what about protecting the devotees? Or protecting the gurus? Yeah. How can we... You can see what is ISKCON doing to protect the gurus?
giving knowledge to disciples about their responsibility, and that also can protect the guru.
Yeah, you can see, like, what are the requirements nowadays for initiation?
I think that ISKCON Guru Disciple course is there.
Yeah, the disciple course, that's a very good thing.
And Jayapataka Maharaj, he emphasizes on a lot of other things like Bhakti Sastri or Brahma.
Oh yeah, for second initiation, you've got to have done Bhakti Shastri.
Yeah, I was in Singapore a month back. There was one devotee, I think he was 11.5 years, and he did Bhakti Sastri with his parents, and he argued that I must get initiation, and Jayapataka Maharaj gave him initiation. So like that. So and
He did Bhakti Shastri?
Yeah, with his parents.
What, he's 11.5 years old?
Yes. And Guru Jayapataka Maharaj said, only 12 years old, I give initiation. And then I can't give you initiation. Then he said, you have to justify me why you should get initiation. That boy managed to justify, and Guru Maharaj gave him initiation.
No.
Yeah.
12-year-old, 11.5 years old.
Yes, I think 3 months before 12 years old, or 5 months, something like that.
Very young, yeah.
So he got initiation because he did Bhakti Sastri. Like that. So knowledge for the devotees is also can protect their Guru Maharaj, spiritual master.
Okay. We also say, although you shouldn't have too many disciples, if the people are qualified, there's no harm. The problem comes if the people are not qualified. That's the main issue. So Jayapataka Maharaj is very strict about that. He's very sure, the people who come for initiation, they have to be qualified. He has so many interviews with them, the things, he's really strict on it. So it's good to try to make sure you get the real standard among the devotees, to make them very serious in their Krishna consciousness.
Maharaj, if I may add, this instance that Girigopal Prabhu mentioned. So I live in Singapore, Maharaj, and this devotee family is very close and very known to us. And actually, my good wife, she happened to be in Mayapur on a yatra along with all of them when this incident happened. And Jayapataka, I am a disciple of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj as well. So he was not in favor of giving initiation to this boy in the first instance, although he had cleared his Bhakti Shastri. He has been chanting 16 rounds for quite some time. He cleared the interviews with the office and so on. But then, going by Prabhupada's instructions, Guru Maharaj was insistent on maintaining that age threshold. And then it took a lot of convincing on part of the boy to Jayapataka Swami Maharaj on why he should be initiated. And despite his age disqualification, and from what I understand, Guru Maharaj thought over it for a long period of time. About 1.5 days, he gave it a serious thought, and finally he relented and granted initiation. So it was not a easy decision on Guru Maharaj's part also, because of the concern that he had on whether at such a young age he would be able to keep up to his vows, keep up to his sadhana and so on. And finally he was merciful in granting initiation. So just thought I will add that, Maharaj.
The boy lives in Singapore?
Yes, Maharaj.
But the Indian citizen, Maharaj, they are from Indian citizen, the parents working in Singapore.
But the boy's going to school in Singapore.
He goes to an Indian school, Maharaj.
Okay.
You may have seen him in one of your earlier visits. You may have seen him, Maharaj.
Yeah, maybe. And he's very lucky. He's certainly very lucky to get such mercy. He must have been a very mature boy that he could convince Jayapataka Maharaj. And the boy must have been very determined also that he went to all the trouble to convince Jayapataka Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj. Yes.
Yeah, actually, Jayapataka Guru Maharaj told the father to convince. The father said, "My son should convince you, not me." Then he let his son speak to Jayapataka Maharaj, and that's how it happens.
Very interesting, yeah. Anyway, spiritual master, sometimes he has to take reactions of the disciple. And Prabhupada indicated that this was the result. He got weak and sickness from accepting unqualified disciples. So there's no harm in accepting many disciples provided they're qualified. So the idea now is to make sure that people who are coming for initiation are properly qualified. And that different issues are there. The recommendations should be there from people. And as we say, we have the ISKCON disciple course, and first of all taking shelter and then getting the initiation. Not immediately just coming and getting initiation, but first getting shelter, so preparation for the initiation, and interviews, so many things. Spiritual master wants to know what you're doing, what books are you reading, what books have you read, how much studying have you done. How much of the program do you come to? How often do you come to programs? These kind of things. Okay. So Maharaj Prithu speaks about the benefit of taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. But in order to do that, to take proper shelter, you have to be very strong in Bhakti Yoga. And one who takes up Bhakti Yoga and takes up Krishna consciousness, who's really taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, he will never go back to the material existence, full of the threefold miseries. Material miseries are there. You come to Krishna consciousness and you taste the nectar of Krishna consciousness, you should never want to go back to the material world. We should have that conviction. And that kind of conviction, that's really necessary for one to surrender themselves fully to Krishna. So taking initiation from the spiritual master, it means to surrender. It means to declare war on the material energy. So Bhakti Yoga is the process by which we fight the material energy, fight the material desires, the desire to lord over the material world, fight the modes of passion and ignorance, and push ourselves up to the mode of goodness and go on to pure goodness. That's what we want to do. So Prithu Maharaj is encouraging the devotee, encouraging all the audience, his people, the demigods, the citizens, everyone, to engage in devotional service and render all kinds of service to the Lord according to their abilities, with full confidence and without reservation. So that kind of mood, Rupa Goswami said, Utsahan Nischaya Dharya, enthusiasm, patience and determination. So Prithu Maharaj is encouraging like that. Full confidence, offer prayers, be eager to do service, not to be picky and choosy, but just happy to get some service. Srila Prabhupada, in the beginning, the devotees were printing a magazine, they were printing a Bhakti Godhead magazine, and the devotees had purchased this little Gestetner printing machine, and then they had to collate the pages and put them together and staple them. And so they had the pile of pages, and they wanted devotees to help collate everything, put it together. And the devotees were saying, I'm not going to do that, I don't want to do that. Prabhupada said, I will do it. And as soon as Prabhupada said, I will do it, then everyone understood and said, okay, Prabhupada, it's okay, Prabhupada, we will do it, let us do it. So Prabhupada said, yes. He said, you should not have reservations, don't be picky and choosy. Just take some service, do service, whatever is required. It's important. So sometimes devotees are like that, picky and choosy. So many different kinds of sacrifices can be performed for the pleasure of the Lord. We offer sometimes things to the demigods. So we can worship demigods, but we should know they're not supreme. We offer respects to them. We don't need demigod prasadam. We offer respects to the demigods. At the same time, we understand their position, that they're agents of the Supreme Lord. We can worship them knowing they're simply one part of the Supreme Lord. They're not the Supreme Lord completely. They're just simply one limb of the Lord. So Prabhupada talks about Dhruva Maharaj, how Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest, he had material desires, became purified. We're given the example about worshipping the lotus feet. That we have to serve the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas. The dust from the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas is very important. And Maharaj Prithu talks about that at the end of his speech, that to take the dust from the feet of the Vaishnavas is very powerful. And Maharaj Prithu warns that even if you're the king, you don't want to offend the Vaishnavas or the Brahmanas. And he gives the example about Lord Krishna worshipping the Brahmanas. We heard earlier this evening, Lord Krishna washed the feet of Sudama Brahman. Any other examples about worshipping the brahmanas? Showing respect for the brahmanas? Or showing disrespect? What about being disrespectful to the brahmanas? We know Devananda Pandit got in trouble because he didn't control his students. And Srivas Pandit had come there to hear Devananda Pandit reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srivas Pandit felt ecstasy, and the Brahmana boys who were there, they threw Srivas Pandit out, and they manhandled him. And so Devananda Pandit had to suffer the reactions for that because they were his students. We have the example, Lord Krishna was in Dwarka, Narada Muni came there. Lord Krishna washed his feet. Lord Krishna served him. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he worships the Brahmanas. And Lord Krishna also offered his respects to Maharaj Yudhisthira and Queen Kunti. Why does Krishna do this? What's his point? Yes, Vrindavan Mataji? Why is Krishna worshipping his devotees?
Because he's giving the example to everybody that worshipping the devotees gives him great joy and happiness when he's happier when his devotees are worshipped.
Yes. Yes, and he wants us to do the same. He wants us to follow his example. Right? Yad yad achariti shreshtas. He's the shrestha, he's the respected person. So he's doing like that. We should follow his example. Very important for us. That we learn from Lord Krishna. He's so kind that he's personally instructing us by his behavior. He couldn't be a better example for us. He's teaching us how to behave in this world, to respect the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. Very important. So this is the main part of his speech at the end here, to always try to serve the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas, get their mercy, the dust from their feet. Janami Janabi, what's the verse? That serving the feet of the Vaishnavas, birth after birth.
Amajanmani Janmani Ishwari Bhavat Bhakti Rahit.
Yeah. Anyway, there's one here, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Naistarapai Chikebe. Means, unless one serves the Vaishnavas and Brahmins, one cannot get liberation from material clutches. So the service of the Brahmanas, but then who is the Brahmana and the Vaishnava? That also has to be understood. So Maharaj Prithu qualifies that for us, and he speaks about the qualities of the Brahmana class. That how to recognize the qualities of the Brahmana. It's not just, oh, my father's a Brahmana, I'm born in a Brahmana family, so I'm a Brahmana. There has to be the proper qualities of the Brahmana. That's a significant point. How to develop the Brahminical qualities. So serving a Brahmana, we should see the Brahminical qualities. Right? What are the qualities? Tandara charana seva bhakta sanivas janame janame hai eya bilas. Birth after birth, I desire to serve the lotus feet of the acharyas and live in a society of devotees. So this Narottam Das has said very nicely like this. What should be the desire of a devotee? To serve the acharyas and live in a society of devotees. So living in the association of devotees is very helpful. You want to get trained by a spiritual master, you should come and live with a spiritual master. Come and live in the ashram, live in the community of devotees. So serving the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas, the Vaishnavas and the Brahmanas are people who practice spiritual life. They don't just claim that position by birthright, but they actually practice it. They practice that kind of life. They follow the regulative principles, and they're rich in knowledge of Krishna consciousness, so they're dedicated to the service of Krishna. And the example is given, Prabhupada gives an example in the purport. He said, Narada Muni himself, in his previous life, he was a maidservant's son, and he got the opportunity to serve Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. And the result was, next life, he's blessed. Next life he becomes the great devotee in the disciplic succession. So that's the result of serving Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. And then in text 41, Maharaj Prithu talks about eating. That he says Lord Krishna takes pleasure in eating through his devotees. He enjoys more to eat through the mouths of devotees than he does through the fire. You know, you may do a fire yagya and you're offering grains and ghee into the fire and chanting mantras, but that's not as pleasing to him. It's not as pleasing to the Lord as distributing prasadam to the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. And the example for that is Advaita Acharya. That Advaita Acharya, when his father expired from the world, Advaita Acharya was doing Shraddha ceremony, and he has to give the prasad, the Mahaprasadam, he has to offer it to the most elevated person in the community. So he gave it to Haridas Thakur. And the other Brahmanas were all shocked. They thought, why are you giving it to him? But Advaita Acharya said, by feeding him, I am feeding millions of you Brahmanas. Because you other Brahmanas, you're just Brahmanas by birth. You don't do any of the real business of the Brahmanas. But Haridas Thakur, he daily chants every day 3 lakh names. So he is the most exalted devotee. So I'm offering my Shraddha plate of prasadam to him. So feeding the Brahmanas, feeding the devotees is also a very powerful thing. You get a lot of mercy by distributing prasadam to the devotees. So then we hear about the qualities. Text 42, you can see the qualities of the Brahmana, what's expected. Faith, austerity, scriptural conclusion, full sense and mind control, meditation. These are the qualities of the real Brahmana. Someone who's actually practicing spiritual culture. He knows his spiritual position and he's busily engaged in the service of Krishna. All right, so that Maharaj Prithu's instructions finish in text 44, the last one of his instructions. 43, he's still talking about carrying the dust on his head. The dust of the lotus feet of the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas carry on my head till the end of life. And finally he says, whoever acquires the Brahminical qualifications, whose only wealth is good behavior, who is grateful and who takes shelter of experienced persons, gets all the opulence of the world. I therefore wish the personality of Godhead and his associates be pleased with the Brahmana class, with the cows, and with me. The Brahmana class doesn't just mean the twice initiated devotees, but it means those who are practicing Brahminical culture. And the cows are a very important part of the Vedic culture. Cow protection, very important for us. And Maharaj Prithu also prays that the Lord be pleased with him also. So as a king, he has the responsibility to make sure the Brahmanas are properly behaving and guiding and acting. And he has also a duty to protect the cows. They're also a very important part of his citizens in his kingdom. We cannot think, oh, they're just some animals. No, we have to take nice care. If you have some cows, you have to make sure they have a nice barn, they should have nice food, they should have enough water, they should be taken care of. And when they're happy, then the society will also be happy. So after hearing all these words from Maharaj Prithu, all the devotees and saintly persons at the meetings, they congratulated him. They didn't clap their hands, they just simply said, sadhu, sadhu. Right? That's how we're supposed to show our appreciation for somebody. Say sadhu, sadhu. So Maharaj Prithu was a great sadhu. And they said, now your father must be delivered. His father was cruel Venu, sinful Vena. But Maharaj Prithu is a great son. And the son is the Putra. So the Putra is the one who delivers the father. So they say, now you've delivered your father. He was killed by the curse of the Brahmanas, but now you've saved him from hell by your devotion, because you're his son. So you're a great credit to him. It's the duty of the son to save the father from hell. Just like Prahlad Maharaj also saved his father from hell. And by the grace of Prahlad, his father could go back home, back to Godhead. All right, so we'll stop here. Are there any final questions on this chapter? It's quite a long chapter. Maharaj Prithu giving a lot of instructions. Prabhupada's purports are quite lengthy there. Some of the verses are purports extremely elaborate. Prabhupada elaborating on a lot of points dealing with the atheists, counteracting atheistic propaganda. Very important for us. Try to pick up some of these examples which Prabhupada is giving. Okay, so then we'll stop here, Prabhus. Thank you very much. So we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Ki
jai.
jai.